young aspiring minds get to see that academia and industry are not two different worlds, but they actually mix and talk with each other a lot.
Will teaching in these formal settings become obsolete? Hi everyone, welcome to DaveAIR. Today we are thrilled to have Dr. Sujit Kumar Chakrabarti with us. He is a professor at IIIT Bangalore and he has a PhD in computer science from IISc. His areas of interest and research are around formal verification, programming, software engineering. He brings with him years of experience in the industry and he has worked with companies like TCS, General Motors, Philips. He is also very passionate about art. One of the things that is so unique to his personality is that he's also a cartoonist. People can find his handle, Mr. Lapata, on Facebook and Instagram. There are like commentaries about general things in life, humor and academics, various themes in his work. We're really thrilled to have you, sir, today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to explore the topic for today, which is role of educators in the age of AI, where we would be discussing technology, creativity, and of course, education. Let's start with addressing this boom that is there right now, the AI boom, right? How relevant are the traditional ways of computer science or traditional branches of computer science, and if you can touch upon uh, your areas of research.
So this is a recurring topic of discussion among academics and students. So you have rightly pointed out our students are very much fascinated with all these new technologies. New one is coming up every day. In fact, probably every hour. We don't know. It's so fast. It's mind blowing. What is the role of traditional areas of computer science? I think to understand that we may have to look at the traditional subjects. Let's say think about science, right? Think about languages. Computer science has been probably the king of all engineering subjects for the last few decades. Has it made other subjects irrelevant? Have people stopped studying mathematics? Have people stopped studying physics? The answer would be no, right? We still study them and we still benefit from them. I think these are the real building blocks of thinking. It's not about the specific skills that you need to do the coding that you are going to do today or tomorrow. These are little building blocks of your thought which make you prepared for the coming challenges, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but in the years to come. So therefore, I think the role of fundamentals is never going to get reduced. They are always going to be there, and computer science and its traditional subjects would always be important. You may be able to do a little bit of prompt engineering, a little bit of app development without knowing much of the fundamentals. But I think if you really want to come up with a new idea, you can't do it without being strong in your foundation. So therefore, foundations are very important. Yeah, so that would be my answer. As to my own research area, let me say a few words about that, because that's what I know about. So I work in software engineering. In particular, I look at the formal aspects of software engineering. Even in particular, formal verification, software testing, and programming languages. So let me briefly touch upon these three and try to convince indirectly that they are still relevant and they will continue to be relevant, probably well past the time all these hypes go away. Take software testing, right? So we test software whenever we build it. We have to do it, because if you are building something which others are going to use, you better make sure that it works, isn't it? You can't just core up something and give it in the hands of your clients without even doing your due diligence that it does work. And if, God forbid, your client finds out that something is wrong, it's going to cost both of you a lot more. So therefore, testing is very important. What makes testing relevant even today, in fact, particularly today, is the speed at which new things are coming up. Think about the number of computing platforms that we are having today. Yesterday, we used to have just desktops, right? Today, we have mobiles, we have cloud, we have IoT, we have data centers, right? So many different platforms. We have so many different programming languages. We have so many different domains, right? AI, healthcare, automotives, all the safety critical cyber physical world. So all these things require different strategies, different approaches to testing. But testing is something which keeps reinventing itself as new technologies, new domains emerge. So it always remains kind of relevant. The attractive part of formal verification is that testing, as I said, only increases confidence. Formal verification gives guarantees. So if the formal verification algorithm says that there is no bug in your system, then there indeed is no bug in your system. You can say this with 100% guarantee. So that's where formal verification finds its kind of niche. It's not as easy as software testing, but its potency is much higher. And that's why people working in safety critical systems, let's say aerospace domain or automotive domain or healthcare domain, they prefer formal verification. And gradually it is making inroads into other areas of software technology. So then comes programming languages. Programming languages take a very different route compared to, let's say, formal verification or testing. Formal verification and testing are bug finding methods. Okay? They presuppose the existence of bug and they try to do a good job in trying to find them out. Programming languages experts say that we will build languages, be it programming languages or computer languages, modeling languages, specification languages, which will prevent bugs from emerging. Think about old programming languages like COBOL, ALGOL, Fortran, or even C, C++. They had various issues related to, let's say, memory leaks, buffer overflow, vulnerabilities, and so on and so forth. Modern programming languages have worked their way around them. Okay, there is continuously a lot of work happening in getting over the problems with the old programming languages and coming up with good constructs. And then there is a whole ecosystem of tools built around each new programming languages, be it compilers, debuggers, interpreters, IDEs, so on and so forth. Each programming language that you think exists just by itself has been actually created by people. We need lots of people to create these things. That's where programming languages are subject with enduring value. Every computer scientist, I would say, should study programming languages. Its theory, the way they are specified and implemented. If one does so, their capability as programmers itself goes to the next level.
Fundamentally, if we are talking about evolution or change, how have educators been able to change how there's like a shift in mindset? I don't want to, make it around the COVID situation again and say that, okay, shift from offline, online, all of that. But if you talk about the change in mindset and methods of education to teach these things that we are talking about, how has it impacted educators? How have they changed their ways?
There is a lot of churn going on, largely driven by the technological world. Everyday new technologies are mushrooming. If you look at higher education institutes, it's really difficult to keep up. A lot of churn, a lot of struggle, there is no doubt about it. I think a more correct question would be, in all this churn, what is it that remains constant rather than what is changing? Because from all my years of experience as an academic, I feel our focus should be in holding our ground rather than trying to shift our base every fortnight and now every night, I would say. So what is it that we are really there for? I feel if you look at companies, like DaveAIR itself, they are doing a stupendous job keeping up with the technology, coming up with new applications, applying them to real world. It's not our job or our duty to do the same thing or mimic their style. They are doing a perfect job for that. What is it that we have to do? There are new technologies coming up and they will go away. Many of them will go away. By their definition, it's going to happen. If we try to become so agile that we are always teaching our students hottest technology just out of the oven, then obviously we are going to completely become very footloose and become shaky at our foundation. So this is time for us to introspect, really understand our role as educators. There is indeed a lot of requirement as far as these new technologies are concerned, new programming languages, new programming platforms. And there are these training institutes which are serving this purpose. Training institutes, online platforms, MOOCs. who are teaching these things, and I think they will be typically doing much better job than traditional universities like us would be doing. Okay, so if we try to catch up with them, we'll never be able to do that. In my opinion, we should stick to the foundation, build the capabilities of our students to be adaptable in the longer run rather than in the short run.
There is often a skill gap.
Right.
There's often like a gap that could have been bridged with introduction and like familiarization with, for lack of a better word, trends in
Right.
the industry.
Mhm.
So do you think, A, how can that gap be bridged? I'm sure people are working towards that. And B, an industry academia collaboration, how can that be better, stronger, more beneficial?
As far as the skill gaps is concerned, I think it has become the order of the day for students to do many things over and beyond their regular curriculum. I think all universities and colleges worth their salt are encouraging their students to do internships in their latter semesters, in the summers, etc. I think that gives them a very nice first-hand primer about what's going on in the industry. If you look at many of the premier colleges, I would say, like the IITs, IIITs, we are actually in the business of working very closely with industry. We have plenty of sponsored consultancy projects, research, co-applied research projects with industries, etc. And our students are actually helping us execute those projects on an ongoing basis. And these activities take the shape of course-based projects, research projects, so on and so forth. They basically seep into our academic milieu in a very seamless manner. Okay, so I think plenty is happening in that direction as far as bridging the skill gap is concerned. About the industry and academia collaboration, there are various levels in which we can collaborate. So the most predictable one is as hirers and suppliers of human resource. Industry is the hirer of our graduates, and we are the suppliers of their human resource. So that's already going on. It's a well-oiled machinery. Then I think the other place is for industries as a place where problems are encountered. The real problems are encountered. It's the industry people who really see what it takes to break the next ground. We at academics have the privilege of sitting back and observing this game. We should try and solve some of those problems, because as I said, we are a privileged lot. We have the time, the resources, probably the knowledge to look at certain things in a slightly abstract way, in a slightly foundational way, and we can at least hope to solve some of the problems which people in the industry do not have the time to do. They are running a race. They have to deliver their product yesterday. It is something like that. So they may not be able to solve the next big problem in theoretical computer science. We can do that. So what I would say is, industry and academia should look at each other with intense interest. We should look at them because they can provide us with the problems that we should be solving. They should look at us as people who could actually solve their teething problems. So that's this next level of industry academia collaboration. And I think over and beyond all these, keeping the interaction going, keeping the discussion going is one of the most important things that industry and academia can do. To create the vibrance in the local ecosystem where young minds, young aspiring minds get to see that academia and industry are not two different worlds, but they actually mix and talk with each other a lot, right? So it's very important to create instances of such things. I think DaveAIR is creating one such instance, a fabulous instance.
If we are to join the dots or maybe put things in place, so there is theory, then there is an experiment, then there is an industrial adoption, and then a mass adoption. Is it always linear?
So my honest answer is, it is almost never linear. Think about the situation now. Okay, it's mass adoption and industrial use. Where is the theory? I mean, theory is struggling to catch up. So, well, in certain sense, theory is always ahead. But if you think in terms of, what does all this imply? Academic ML community or AI community is struggling. Why do the ML models, trained ML models work? I mean, this is This is a seriously tough question that people are grappling with. Trust me, nobody knows the answer, and that's a matter of concern for many people. Today, everything seems to be working so fine. Everybody is gung-ho about all this, but how can we say that tomorrow all this is not going to come crashing down on our heads? So somebody has to find out and fix the theory behind it, right? Right now, it's not fixed, and it's quite a shaky ground, I would say. And a lot of work is going on in that. But this is a perfect example of the fact that no, it doesn't happen in a linear way. Sometimes the adoption, depending upon various pragmatic or practical concerns, may race ahead of the theory and pull the theory along with it and pose new problems and completely change the direction in which theoretical researchers are working. So yesterday, people were probably very concerned about coming up with the next deep neural network model. Today, they are concerned about ethics. They are concerned about fairness. These are problems posed by the real world. This is not a linear, it's not a theoretical problem.
Many times, this race of always being profitable or always building to scale or just moving very fast so that we don't miss the opportunity and we are not, there at the wrong time, leaves people unsatisfied also in their lives. I'm referring to the affordable braille reader project of yours, sir. It's a classic example of how technology is being used to do good, and it sits beautifully at the intersection of inclusivity, social impact, and of course technology that enables all of it. How does one use that for the good, and what would you say to young entrepreneurs, students, people who are in the industry, to also have that mindset or not forget it or not look at it as a lesser of an opportunity?
Whenever we do something, we would like it to deeply satisfy us. So this refreshable braille display project happened because there was a deep hunger for doing something meaningful, and I was open to invest my energies, my time, my resources to make that happen. Beyond that, let me also put in place a disclaimer that the idea of the braille display device was not mine. It was actually of one of my colleagues called Supriya De, and another brilliant colleague called Paul D'Souza. They are not part of IIIT, they are entrepreneurs themselves, and they approached at some point and we kind of got talking, and then this RBD project happened. Okay, and also as far as the creation of the RBD is concerned, part of it was there, and most of the technical heavy lifting was done by a person called Rajgopal, a brilliant engineer. My role was basically more in the leadership side, where I had to make sure that this brilliant team which had come together continues to keep working, and whatever resources they need to be functioning is available to them at the right time. That was my job primarily. Not to say that I didn't make any technical contributions, but my contributions, technical contributions, are eclipsed compared to what those people did. If you look at the philosophy of the refreshable braille display device, right? Many youngsters are enamored by the idea of sophisticated, cool technologies.
It's so glamorous.
Right. It's all driven by glamour, right? Yeah. Metaverse, for example. But these also are things which will put whatever you create out of the reach of economically disadvantaged people. Our target audience was blind school children of India, many of whom are economically disadvantaged. If we wanted to create something which is useful to them, then we have to do exactly the opposite of going towards sophistication, right? We have to unsophisticate. That is the unique part of a braille display device. There are other braille display devices all over the world. They cost a lot more. Yeah. Okay, our job was to simplify it to the extent that it costs enough, or rather it costs little enough, so that poor blind school children can afford it. That's where the innovations were targeted. And when we did that, this was the central focus of the entire team. Not to say that other things which researchers typically aspire for, be it research papers, be it patents, etc., they didn't happen. All those things happened. We got research publications, we got patent, we got media attention. We even spawned an award-winning startup company. So right now, if you look for Wemby.in, they are actually commercially manufacturing this device called Hexes, which is based upon this idea. So all those things happened, but we didn't really go for that.
Those were not the goals, main goals.
They were not the main goals, and therefore the the most satisfying part of all this entire project was not all these things. It was the fact that we are able to see young blind school children with our device in their hands. It's amazing. You cannot compare that feeling with any of the other things. That holds the message that I would like to give, that if you see a problem, right, just go for it. What happens today, our kids, youngsters are so much into devices. They live in a virtual world, and one of the most damaging things that it does is it deprioritizes their real world around them. Okay, the people, the problems associated with that real world, that physical world that is around them, kind of gets deprioritized. On the other hand, the world that they connect with through the virtual world, that becomes very important. So hence, for example, the next thing in say Formula One racing is probably the most important thing in the world to a young privileged individual or a youngster compared to the pothole that he bumps into every time he gets out of his house, right? So I think this is a classic case of disconnection with the real world, which should not happen. So I would say that we should keep our eyes open. By eyes I mean our naked eyes, not the virtual eyes which is glued with the devices. Okay, I'm talking about the eyes which looks around and sees the physical world and connects with it, sees the problems that are there in it. And there are plenty of interesting problems out there. Think about pollution, think about road traffic conditions, think about inequity, think about burgeoning health problems, education. These are real problems, right? They need solution, and our young minds should actually jump into them.
The subject of, again, instant gratification and quick problem solving, right? We have the solution to our problem almost like a click away. We will just get the solution. So in this time, how has your experience with students been?
Quote from Professor P.P. Chakrabarti, who was a former director of IIT Kharagpur. He was once in our institute and giving a lecture. So he said something which stuck with me. So he said that most of us are spending so much time in staying ahead of the race. I wish we had spent some of our time in getting to the bottom of some of the things. This was such a profound statement if you look at it. Figuring out something which is deep, okay, which doesn't lend itself to a quick solution, okay, but actually deeply understanding something. If you taste that experience, it will be hard to wean yourself off that. So I think this whole thing of getting to the foundation of a problem and trying to attack it at its base is so gratifying. It is not instantly gratifying. It takes work. It takes perseverance. Without that, you cannot get that taste. But once you get it, you will realize how incomparable it is with instant gratification of finding a ready-made answer in ChatGPT. One of my PhD students, he's a part-time student. He works with a very reputed multinational firm. He was once talking to me and he was saying that, Professor, my manager in the organization, he always wants me to first check with ChatGPT if an answer is there. And then he allows me to, put my own thoughts on it, only if it is not available elsewhere. Because he wants to get things done quickly. He wants the answer immediately. And this helps productivity. So we are encouraged to use ChatGPT. Whereas here you are always restricting me. You are always asking me not to use ChatGPT, always asking me to use my own thoughts. Why is it like that? Why is that difference there? So I asked him, what is your team developing, right? So he said, some product name. He said, this is what we are developing. I said, cool, very nice. So I think using a technology like this actually is good for developing a good product like that, right? It enhances quality, it reduces the time to market, so it's all good. Very nice. You should in fact do that. Now tell me, what is the product that we are in the business of? He said he was kind of puzzled first, and then he tried. Okay, he said that research papers. I said no. Then he said ideas. I said no, and then he kind of gave up. You tell. I said it's you. You are our product. We want you to be high quality. And now you think about the priorities. If you want to be of high quality, what is it that you should be doing? Should you be always looking at ChatGPT for every question you are stumbling upon? No. You should actually, wrestle your brain. You should raise your brain. You should think. And that's what is going to bring about the change which is going to make you ready for the next challenge. ChatGPT is not going to help you in that. So I think that is the sort of message. So that is the message to all youngsters who are probably kind of a little addicted to instant gratification. And I don't want to take a moral high ground. Even we are to some extent. And the way we try to stay clean from this addiction is to think of this responsibility of continuously improving ourselves. See to it that our dependence on technology doesn't come in our way of self-improvement. This particular outlook, this particular lens should always be kept on. It's fine to use technology where it is useful, but we should always evaluate it against the need of self-improvement, okay, and keeping ourselves fit and fine, right? So very similar to if you're, this is second floor, right?
Yeah.
We have the escalator, right? So we can always take the escalator if required. We should sometimes think about it, right? Otherwise, we get used to all this luxurious ways of going about things, and then we spend another 15,000, subscribing for a cult fit or some gym program, right? Working out should be built into our lifestyle. In the same manner, working our brains should be built into our way of working. We should keep our thinking muscles strong. So that's what I would say.
But they also come with years of experience, sir, and truly, it's helping me, it's helping the audience. It's also finding your own ways of doing things rather than aligning to a tutorial
Right.
that makes things faster
Right.
and easier.
Recipe kind of thing.
Recipe, yes. And you also said that even in your body of work, in your way of working, you do use ChatGPT, if I interpret correctly from what you just said. So I'm just interested in knowing, how does it help you? Do you think it makes you productive? In what aspects of your work does it, come into picture, and does it really help? Of course, we will touch upon the subject of examinations in the next in the next segment. But how do you use ChatGPT or any other model for that matter?
Okay, so I do use ChatGPT. Again, I would like to put it this way, that ChatGPT comes very low in the order of various things that I use as tools of productivity. Starting with my fountain pen, which I always carry with myself, my planning diary, my email, my laptop, my various programming languages I use to code up little things, the Unix shell. There are so many things which may not be even looked as technology these days. They are actually helping us be productive. So ChatGPT is neither the first nor the most important of all the tools that we use. We should understand that. Having said that, ChatGPT comes in handy in various places. So for example, both my way of teaching, as well as when I'm, let's say, setting up a question paper or something like that, it's all about coming up with examples. So if I, for example, let's say that I want to include a question in my question paper. The first option is to go to a textbook, pick up a back of the chapter question and put it there, right? Our students are smart. They have already done that. It's not going to surprise them. The other option is Google it up. Our students are smarter. They have already done that. Look at previous year's question papers. The first thing that students do after registering a course is to collect all the question papers of previous years, and that's not going to surprise them. What do you do? Terrible situation. So I have been working very hard. Okay? Even if I have taught a course for 10 years, the question paper of my 11th year will not be the same as my first year or 5th year or whatever. Okay? I work really, really hard to bring in that element of novelty in each question paper that I solve, in fact, create. In fact, all the examples that I use in my classes, from year to year, they keep evolving. And for so long, I have been working very hard, but it's not easy. So now I have this ChatGPT, which I think of as a nice friend with whom I can discuss through prompts.
Yeah.
And I can create new examples with not merely at a click of a button. Okay, I don't do that, but I engage in a conversation with ChatGPT, and it eases my process of coming up with new examples. Okay, that is one of the strongest use cases that I have got with ChatGPT. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm very, very vigilant about not getting addicted to this convenience. Yeah, this convenience. Okay, trying to pass off my laziness as my lack of time. I'm very, very skeptical about that. And I think it's very important that all of us do that. Whenever we are taking up a new technology, we shouldn't just flow with the tremendous technological wind or marketing wind that people are blowing at us. Okay, if a company is creating commercial technology, they will want us to adopt it early, right? But we should hold back. We should be skeptical, and if required, be laggards. See if it is useful and see whether it is actually getting us into a new addiction. So I am very clear about that, very vigilant about that, and that's how I use ChatGPT.
If you see students, of course, online courses, cohorts, all of these are very good for upskilling, for further adding a layer of skill on your formal training.
Right.
But many times people rely on those as their primary source of knowledge and also training. So will teaching in these formal settings become obsolete? How do the teachers feel about it?
7-8 years back, when all these MOOCs, like Coursera and others were becoming very popular, right? And there was indeed a very serious line of thought that probably these will make traditional style of higher education completely useless or needless. In fact, I had written an article in those days, and I titled it as the MOOCs Day Prophecy.
Yeah, in Deccan Herald, I think
Yes.
I read it.
Yes. Okay, so my outlook at that time was indeed very apocalyptic. I was thinking that this is it. We are done for. Okay, and I had started thinking, what is it that, how do we save us? I was actually thinking that way, and my thoughts were echoing the thoughts of, I think, thousands, if not millions, of teachers all over the world. Through my understanding, experience, I have realized that no, it's not going to completely make us obsolete. That's for sure. There is no doubt that traditional education has lost a lot of ground to online education. But I would say that it is because so far, because of various forces, because of various pressures, traditional universities have been trying to do something which was never supposed to be done by them. Okay, we were trying to act or pose as training schools.
Yeah.
Okay, we were forgetting the fundamental difference between training and education. We are educational institutes, not training institutes. Okay, our job is not to give that next skill to our students, but prepare them for the further life. We cannot compete with training schools or online platforms as far as skills are concerned. They are doing a fabulous job in that, and they should continue doing that. I think it's a positive change, right? And we encourage our students to take up these things wherever new skills are required. I just say, do this particular course about such and such technology. I don't know. I can't teach you that.
or go to an industry internship or
Or-
experience that.
Yes. So we do all that, and we encourage our students regarding that. What is our role? You see, our role is in when you go to a class, right? You are observing a professor teaching. You are observing your students asking questions, interacting with that professor. You are taking part in that entire atmosphere of collective learning. If it is that kind of a class, that is something which is very difficult to emulate in a virtual environment. When the class gets over, I often walk back to my office with my students. Our conversation continues. They just sit in my office and the discussion continues, right? Where is there a place in an online atmosphere for such things happening? And these are the main contributors to the value of traditional style of learning, right? So when a student joins a college, he or she doesn't just come to class, write exams. They do sports, they do
Music.
cultural activities, they make friends, they fall in love, their heart gets broken, all sorts of things happen. And I think these are very much parts of fundamental parts of being a student in a traditional setting of in university. I don't think online platforms are anywhere close to getting here.
Right.
So they are not going to supplant us in any manner. I can think of some futuristic virtual reality setting where all this is probably being simulated in a virtual environment.
Yeah, or there's a teacher's brain, like
Teacher's
the
brain.
AI teacher, something
AI
like
teacher, which is giving that kind of
yeah.
a setting. That would be again a very technologically sophisticated place to be.
Yeah.
But I would not like to be part of that sad world. I'm sorry to say that. The current setting where we interact with people, our professors are inspiring people. We learn from them not merely in the class, but the way they conduct themselves outside it. Everything is part of the game, and that's a very, very rich and transformational experience. We should not forget about that. So yes, we are very much relevant even now and in future.
These are all hot topics, right? Teachers are finding solutions to beat AI. Students are trying to make the best use of it so as to, yes, of course, it also helps in framing your thought. And personally, when I have scattered thoughts, I use an AI assistant to put it all together. A lot of students also might be doing that. Do you encourage your students to use these tools, or do you ask them to refrain? Of course, not refrain, but that mindfulness about using AI in your day-to-day work, like we just talked about, but now from the perspective of students.
This particular problem is a live problem. It's an open problem. We do not have a very clear-cut solution to this. It is, even as we speak, it is creating a lot of disturbance in the community. I will give you isolated pieces of my observation, some of them positive, some of them negative. So there were various modes of assessment, for example, take-home examinations, right? Open book examinations, open time examinations. Right now, they are all out of the window, okay, because there is no sanctity left for them, right? So these things are becoming more and more difficult. The problem is not that we, with enough amount of effort, we will not be able to create questions which will not be available in the anywhere else. That's not the problem. The problem is if you create this kind of question, it will no more be an inclusive question, right? It would be a very unfair question, which probably only the top 1 or 2% of the class will be able to handle. The rest of them will not be able to handle it, and then they will probably resort to some other backhand means of trying to solve it. Okay, so you have to strike a balance in designing your question. You cannot just make it a question of, let me give you the hardest possible question. That's not the idea, right? On the positive side, we have actually found certain things liberating. For example, we don't need to, as you hinted, right? We actually encourage our students to use ChatGPT wherever
It's
it is
required.
it is required, or it is helpful, or it removes drudgery. So if I am trying to test a particular competency, and in order to do that, there are many other things that the student has to bother about. Just to think about, if I am thinking about the student's algorithmic skills, I'm not so concerned about whether he gets the syntax right or not. So let him use whatever technology he wants, whether it is a compiler or whether it is a LLM tool to get the syntax right. But if he's also getting the algorithm out of it, then the purpose is lost, right?
Following this journey on Instagram and Facebook through Mr. Lapata, your brilliant cartoon character, and also a medium to share your experiences as an academician, and the whole commentary on Indian academia. I think it's very, very thrilling to engage with those cartoons. It would be wrong to miss that part of your personality, sir, that you bring through your work and address Indian academia through humor. If you can just help us understand how did that come about?
Metaphorically, the response is a sigh of relief. Okay, when people find that I am not a robot, I am a human being, I think it must be a positive reaction, I'm sure. So there was when I was a PhD student, right? I realized at that time the glamour associated with going abroad and studying there, higher education, and the comparisons that people make about, how it is in India and how it is abroad, particularly the Western countries in Europe and North America. And some of those comparisons are not always fair, you know. And it is a known fact that there is a continuous bias, and that bias is visible in so many places. The papers which originate from this geography, for example, technical papers, research papers, they have been subjected to more stringent scrutiny as compared to Western these things. So there is continuously a resistance that we are fighting against, right? In the same manner, I also see that in the popular culture, uh, Indian academia and Indian research does not find its voice. It does not get represented enough, even among Indians, and that's the surprising part. I I had a need to. I found it funny in a sarcastic sense, and I felt a need to express myself this particular thing, and that's how Lapata was born, right? And I started doing these cartoons when I was a PhD student. The reception was phenomenal,
I'm sure.
So it was like, we have got a voice. That was the experience that was the reaction that many of my fellow IIScians gave me at that time. Dichotomy between a so-called technical or scientific person and artistic this thing. I think it's really an artificial one. There is no such dichotomy. If you look at famous scientists like Richard Feynman, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, right, Meghnad Saha, they were all musicians. In fact, in my own personal circle, I know plenty of people who are otherwise in a technical or scientific profession, but are passionate about art, some or the other form of art.
Yeah.
In some cases, multiple forms of art. Okay, so I think there is no dichotomy, there is no conflict between these two things. Another aspect I would like to bring out here is look at their natures, right? If you look at them superficially, you will think that art is a expression, some sort of emotional expression, while science or technology or engineering is a methodical, regimented kind of thing. I think nothing could be further from truth. Okay, if you let's talk about some classical piece like Beethoven's creations or Tyagaraja's Kritis or something like that. I don't know much about them, but what I understand is that there is very strong mathematics there, a very strong sense of design there, a very strong sense of method there. Okay, it's art, right? Art cannot exist without method and science behind it. Okay, design thinking behind that. Similarly, if you think about, let's say, Taj Mahal, right, or Meenakshi Temple, right? Would you call it a creation of art or would you call it a creation of science? I would consider it very difficult question. No, it's both. And why go so far away? Think about a beautiful car or a aeroplane, right? Is there no beauty there? Of course there is, right? How can you create something scientific without having a deep sense of aesthetic? So I think these two people are not different. There are lots of societal pressures which
make one choose or align or confine to
confine or conform to stereotypes. Sometimes we have various kinds of fears. I was also subject to them at some point in time. I used to actually go out of my way to hide my artistic aspects from my fellow colleagues, thinking that they should not think of me as, somebody frivolous who engages in something as frivolous as art. Okay, but there was a time when I realized that this is really not helping, and I just let go of that fear, and it has been a very liberating experience.
What a beautiful note or point in this conversation. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing everything that you shared today.
My pleasure.
For me personally, it's been very, very enriching. I'm sure it will be the same for our audience. At this point, maybe we can try and take note of 3 key takeaways that will help us put this conversation into context, that can be actionable, non-actionable, anything that you would want our audience to take away from.
Let me first start with a disclaimer. So I am not any kind of guru or something. I am just an ordinary person struggling with various things. And
that's very humble.
I have some experiences, some insights, but I also have my own doubts. But since you have put me in this spot and you are asking me to share my 3 takeaways, so I will give them. So the first takeaway will be maybe to youngsters or students or learners. You should not try and take the shortcuts. Try to go deep. Love the process of learning. If you really want to contribute, just solve a problem that you have experienced. Okay, either yourself directly or indirectly. Right? You don't have to go and check out the research literature to find out what is the next best problem that I should be solving. So that's one takeaway. Takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2 is to organizations. I would say that organizations should, by their own construct, they are focused on profits and productivity. I would request them humbly to also start focusing on their people, make it a central agenda to see to it that they grow as individuals, keep learning all the time, and their programs, their processes should all be aligned with this goal in mind. So that would be my takeaway number 2. My takeaway number 3 would be to researchers and academics. I would like to say, why so serious? Why can't you just express yourself in whichever way you feel like expressing yourself? Draw a picture, compose a song, write a poem, hum a tune. Have fun.
Yeah.
That's the last message. Have fun.
Thank you, Dr. Sujit. It's been such a pleasure and it was so much fun. We really hope that our audience also enjoys it. And if you do, please like, share this video and subscribe to our channel. That's it from us today. Have a good time.
Thank you.